opening new locations does take a lot of time. I think even at Sterling, we allow a year before we really start seeing massive results. And we have, lots of reviews and lots of visitors, and we can pump those locations up pretty quickly. But this is something that takes a while, and financially, you got to make the right decisions for your business. So.
Well, hello and welcome to the Sterling Family Law Show. I'm Jeff Hughes. I'm your host. I have with me Tyler Dolph, my co-host, and today we're back with Tom Harton as he is building his family law firm on Long Island. And for those of you who are thinking about starting a firm or you've started a firm, what do you do when the advice you're getting from your marketing agency doesn't comport with what you want to do with your business? How do you handle that? So we're going to hear from Tom how he's working through that right now as he's building his firm and thinking about how does he expand whenever the marketing team's telling him one thing and he wants to do something different. Well, Tom, let's look at your numbers for the month of August here. So we're sitting here in September looking back at the month, and that was your 13th full month, I will point out, that you have had your firm going. And we've been looking at your numbers and talking through your firm every month since then. So here we are again. And why don't you walk us through what happened?
Sure. So things remained pretty steady from the months before that. The only hiccup in August is that I did take a week's vacation, so that me being a solo attorney obviously is going to result in my numbers taking a little bit of a hit. So in August I did $16,227. So if we were to had I not taken that vacation, again I'm trying to hit at least while it's still just me working here, the threshold in my brain is kind of I want to hit a minimum of 20,000 each month. So I took the vacation. That was my choice. So August, I had the work, and had I been here the full month, I would have easily hit that metric. So good. Happy with the numbers there.
I'm looking for a day where you can take a vacation and not see a dip.
Yeah, might come sooner than we think. 8 leads, pretty steady from what we've seen before. 5 consults, 3 hires, and same bottom line profit. Given my total expenses in the range of 7,000, so bottom line profit around just over 9,000. So
great. So Tom, you mentioned Jeff, you mentioned this is Tom's 13th month in business, and I was pulling some stats earlier for one of our other businesses. But Tom, if you look at just the 12 months, so within your first year, do you happen to have your total revenue?
I can pull that up live. Let's see, because we have this all in Excel sheet. So if you give me 30 seconds here.
I've got $150,000.
Sum these numbers. Yeah, that sounds right. And if I were to just do the last, prorate that over just the last 4 months. So 83 of that was just over the last 4 months.
So if you extrapolate that over a 12-month period, what would that be?
240 something, 249.
Yeah. Times 3. Just shy of 250, 249, 756. So good. That's a good rolling average right there. Yeah. And again, I'll temper that by saying, I don't like to stress this point too much, but I am still putting, 20 hours a week doing contract work for that other firm. So that's $250K in top line revenue while I'm both working in and on the business, only about 30 hours a week.
What's really cool is that there's hundreds of family lawyers looking to start their own practice right now, and they can easily go back and look at your last 12 months of podcasts where you've walked through the whole process and modeled what that looks like. And you've done it, obviously working part-time, and you got a young family, and there's a lot of stressors in your life right now. So I would say, well done.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was, I would say, a little bit harder than I thought, a little more work than I thought for people looking to do it. But, as you can see, it's definitely doable. I think having that side income was a gigantic help, because if I go back to those early months where, I'm looking at my first, so my first 6 months, I'm seeing 5,000, 4,000, 7,000. I could
a little scary.
A wife and 2 kids on that, right? So I'm very thankful to my other employers for help. I don't know. It's a situation that I'm very lucky to be in. So because I don't know that would have been, those would have been a very hard 6 months to get through. So, I'd say if you're young in your early 20s and you can get, live in a little studio apartment or something while you start, it's so doable. If you have a family and like me, you're support my wife's a stay-at-home mom. So I don't think this would have, it would have been much more difficult. Not to say it wouldn't have worked, but it definitely would have been much more difficult without that.
I can also echo what you're saying. I've started 10-ish businesses, and every one of them, it was harder than I thought. So you're not alone. I've never met anyone who said, I started a business and it was easier than I thought. It just, that person doesn't exist. That scenario doesn't exist.
Tom, total tangent here, but given the fact you got 13 months under your belt, if someone's listening to this and they're inspired by our story, they want to do their thing, what's one or two things that you would have changed going into this that would have made it more effective faster?
That I would have changed to what, make it grow faster?
Yeah, or avoided heartache, or any benefit that someone could hear so that they don't make the same mistake you did.
I mean, it's not a mistake I made, but I will say, work with a marketing company, particularly working with you guys with Rocket Clicks, and even with my previous marketing company, I could say, all the technical stuff that you guys do. And I want to be clear, I have an engineering degree. I know I'm fairly well versed in computers compared to the general population. And even most of that stuff goes over my head. So, I definitely would not be there, be where I am right now without that. So, I think, focusing on the local search and, doing everything you can to boost those rankings. Thankfully I had a lot of, I was talking to Jeff before I opened my firm, talking to someone else local to me before I opened my firm too. So they gave me a lot of advice that I think prevented me from making a lot of mistakes. So what I think some people might do is try to really reduce expenses. And obviously that's a smart thing to do. My advice is not to go out spending like crazy, but it is worth it short term and long term to work with a team and to pay them some money that knows what they're doing. Because I could, without you guys and without, my previous company too, I could still be at that 4,000 a month threshold. So
we do a lot of these, and overwhelmingly when I ask that question, the number one response is ask for help, have a mentor, like find someone who's done it before.
Yep. And I had Jeff before I even opened, so which was awesome.
Big shout out. That's awesome.
Hey, family law firm leaders, my partner, Tony Carls, just released his book where he lays bare our precise blueprint for growing sterling lawyers from 0 to 17 million. This is the blueprint that we still use daily. And Tony explains it in very simple terms. The truth is, this is not simple to do. Success requires and demands hard work, but if you have the patience and the work ethic to do it, your family law firm will succeed. Well, Tom, prior to coming on today, we were talking about some challenges on the marketing side, and obviously marketing teams don't bat 1,000%. So let's kind of talk about some of the stress or struggles or frustrations you're having right now with respect to mapping.
Sure. So I have 2 offices, and you guys know I'm working with Rocket Clicks here. So my first office that I opened was in Massapequa, and that would have been opened in, when I started. So that's 13 months old at this point. And then I opened another office in Melville in February. So that would be my office number 2. My first office, Massapequa, continues to perform really well. I am, that is where, these numbers that I'm reading off, all of those, all of 100% of that work has come from that office. Melville is and I'll temper this by saying it's wealthy and it's a commercial area on Long Island, which is, there's not too many of those. Long Island's largely residential, at least when you come out here to this part. So when I first started working with Rocket Clicks, one of the first things I wanted to do was open a second office to get more of that map pack ranking. Because I knew, if I could open a second office like Massapequa, my goal was always to hire somebody as quickly as I could. I knew if I could get like a second location like this, I would have more than enough work to give that person. So Melville has not exactly panned out. It has been 7 months now, 7.5, and I have not had a single consult in that office. So that's been a little frustrating. I think I'm thankful that I opened Massapequa first, because had I gone in the other direction and opened Melville first, we might be having a very different conversation here, or not having a conversation at all, because maybe my doors would be closed. But I think, sorry, I tend to go off on tangents too. So the question was map pack difficulty. Oh yeah, so have just been batting around the idea of moving that Melville location, taking that Google business profile and opening it up somewhere else. And it is kind of like a short versus long-term play, because I know the team at Rocket Clicks probably is, when they thought Melville, focusing, they're looking 3 to 5 years ahead and saying, hey, if we give this office time, this can be, it could be a money pit. And they're probably right. But when I look at the map pack rankings in Melville, there are, I want to say 5, and that might even be being conservative, other firms there within 2 or 3 mile radius, maybe even less than that, that have 500 plus reviews, and when they did a analysis of their backlinks, they're all in the thousands, and here I am with like 11 backlinks and 12 reviews on that Google business profile. So there's no way I'm going to be competitive there. And I just think, obviously I need to find a balance between short term and long term. And I think if I, want to keep going for now, I think, my next office will be a little bit more of a balance. Like I think Massapequa was, it's good short term, and I think it will be a good long term. In Nassau County, is Massapequa as good as Garden City? Maybe not, but I still think there's a lot of traffic here. There's a good population density of upper middle class people, and I think there's plenty of other spaces like that. I enjoy playing around with Google and doing searches like divorce lawyer near this town, and seeing where people are, where those results are showing up, and where the firms are. So I already have some other locations in mind that I'd like to move that to. That I think, again, if we open there and do 3 to 6 months of getting me some reviews and some backlinks and stuff like that, that I think that office could get pretty busy pretty quick.
Do you have a sense, Tom, as to why you're not getting the traffic? Like, what's the biggest reason? Is it the competitive pressure of all of
Yeah,
these
I think
larger firms?
yeah. Again, there's only a few commercial districts on Long Island, right? Garden City is one, Hauppauge is one, Melville is one. So when I opened my first office, I intentionally avoided those commercial districts. I basically found a spot where the next nearest divorce lawyer is probably 4 or 5 miles up the road, and they don't even. I think they're largely referral based. They have a very small internet presence. So most of my competition comes from these other towns that are, like, I think even in Massapequa, which is a 20-minute drive from Melville. I think my biggest competitors in Massapequa are firms that are in Melville. Their map pack rank goes that far that it spreads 20 minutes into Massapequa. So when I opened the office here and even had 10 reviews and a couple of backlinks, I was popping up in the map already. And I think it's, even if I were to take this Massapequa profile and move it to Melville, I would probably fall from the number 1 spot to like number 5. So yeah, I think it's just competition.
Yeah. So, and what did Rocket Clicks advise you whenever you expressed this to them?
I think at first their advice was give it some more time. I think maybe they didn't know how much time there was, because I know a conversation I had with them last month was, I need to slow down because we need to give these, it's too soon to get any data. And I was like, okay. And then they said, we're not going to know anything until 4 to 6 months. And I was like, okay, wait a second, it's been 7 months and still haven't gotten a single consult yet. So yeah, even if you could quadruple my number of consults in the next 6 months, it's still, it's a tough spot.
Have you seen your rankings rise at all, or are they just in the same place they've been for?
Yeah, they've gone. I think when we started, I was like in number 19, and now I'm in spot like 13. So not, I'm nowhere close to that top 3.
So have you formulated a plan on how long you're going to hold it out or wait?
I think in my mind, I'm already out of there. Physically, I'm still there, but mentally, I have 2 other spots I'm ready to open. Well, not at the same time, but 2 locations that I want to choose from. And I think And another reason, and we can kind of segue into this, that I want to move so that this is going further out east into Suffolk County, and the person that I'm looking to hire lives further out there, and I think would have more of a preference for working. So even if that's just another added benefit to considering one of these spaces.
Right. So if you kept the Melville location, your monthly cost is a grand to keep that lease going, right?
No, that's my more expensive office. So I pay $1,200 here in Massapequa. In Melville, the office is $1,600.
Okay, so it's a $1,600 a month cost to keep it going if you wanted to stay there.
Yeah, I think I would rather, and again, I'll probably pay that same amount, $1,500-$1,600 somewhere else. But again, I think if we can get there, I could pop in that map much more quickly. If I hire somebody, I just assume I'll pump some money into ads. I know we talked about that last time, and that's fine. So while even though that location might not immediately pop up in the map, at least we'll have those ads as a supplement until that climbs up, and then I still have Massapequa also. So
yeah. So you alluded to. Go ahead, Tyler.
Just interesting note here, and I think for anyone listening, opening new locations does take a lot of time. I think even at Sterling, we allow a year before we really start seeing massive results, and we have lots of reviews and lots of visitors, and we can pump those locations up pretty quickly. But your point is totally valid in that this is something that takes a while, and financially, you got to make the right decisions for your business. So I totally support you in that.
Yeah, and I am kind of like any startup, right, operating on tighter margins. I think if Melville was my fifth location and I already had a few associates, I'd say, yeah, keep it. Let's open another one and let's keep Melville because it is, probably a good long-term play. But, given that I can't support 3 offices, especially when I could, but that plus hiring an employee plus considering starting to run some ads, then I've stretched my budget too thin.
So a moment ago, you alluded to potential hire. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I've had a referral, and I'm actually meeting with her today. We've kind of been in contact for like a month or two now, and she was referred to me from someone I've gotten to know. He's actually he's opposing counsel on like 3 of my cases right now, but really nice guy. I happened to mention that I was hiring, and then like a month later, he reached out. This was probably sometime over the summer. He reached out and said, I have someone in mind if you wanted to meet her. So I met with her and she, seemed really great. We talked for like an hour, and the one thing, and we're actually meeting today. So finally it took between, I think I was on vacation and then her big complaint at the firm she's at now, that she is just way overworked and she has not had time to not even had time to like meet with me. And so let me ask this question. You're an average attorney in your firm. How many cases are they handling at once? Do you know that number?
Mid-40s.
Okay, that's what I thought. And so for reference, I probably have somewhere around 20, 25 right now. She told me 107.
Wow.
And she doesn't have a paralegal.
Wow.
Yeah. So I fully believe
I'd want to leave too.
Yeah, right. And so, but the flip side of that is she's paid very well. So I think I think she's done. She wants to leave, and she knows she's going to be taking a cut. And I had that conversation with her. I said, if you want quality of life, there is going to be a bit of a pay cut, and I'm going to talk to her a little bit more today about working for me, who's more of a startup, than this firm that's been around for decades and is probably has a lot more machines and technology and stuff in place that I don't. But other than that, I know she, the guy that referred her to me said she, all the clients love her, and this is someone that works with her. Clients love her. All the judges and stuff in Suffolk County, really respect her and everything. So I think she would be, on the legal side, I think she would be awesome. Just have to, figure out what the numbers are, and hopefully we can.
So if you brought her on, what are your thoughts on ramping up her caseload? Would you give her some of your files, or would you give her all the new ones coming through? Or?
Both. I would give her. There's probably a few that I would hang on to, just because, like ones that I've been working. There's still a few that I like some of my first cases that are still going. Some of these cases last very long, as you guys know. So I have, probably 3 of those cases that are, from like 2024 that are still moving. But I think, anything that I've brought in more recently, and, obviously all new cases that I sign, no matter what office they're in, would go directly to her. And, the side note to that is me being fortunate in having this other income is that I can pick up work there.
Yeah. The secret to handing off files as you hand off your files to hers is getting that face-to-face started as quickly as you possibly can and doing something on the file. Immediate action. Like if you call up your client, hey, Mr. Client, I'm going to be passing your case over to my new associate. Here she is on the phone. Let's talk. And then she's already got something going on the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good point.
That's that simple.
Right. Yeah. And I think, like I said, I've met with her. She's really, really friendly. And I know she, probably has that courtroom personality that to an extent I don't. I've been good in court because I'm not good about talking about myself, but I think I'm smart. I come in with the facts where, and sometimes attorneys that have been practicing 20, 30 years, they start talking and I'm like, are you talking about a different case? Cause what are you talking about? But I don't have that like really aggressive courtroom personality that, a lot of these divorce lawyers here, especially in New York, on Long Island, they all come in hot headed and my response is like, pump the brakes. You're talking about something wrong. I think she has that a little bit better than me. So I would not even, I think sometimes senior people pass cases off to like, they bring in like a second year associate and pass cases off. And probably in their own mind, they're like, I gotta watch this case myself still a little bit on the back end and make sure things are going well. Like that's not even a thought in my mind. I think if I passed the case off to her, I would be extremely confident. So I think that would come through in, my conversation with the client. She's been, I think it's rare that, well, I don't know, maybe you can correct me on that, but rare that someone hires someone with more experience than themselves. Significantly more experience.
Well, Tom, I think you have the right vision, right? You know that you don't long-term want to be the attorney at your firm managing all the cases. You want to be the CEO running the business. And so you have to make this hire at some point. I think we talked last episode about, what's the right time, and is it more about finding the right fit versus making the hire when it makes more financial sense? How are you navigating that scenario, especially given the fact that, she's a very highly paid, competent employee, and that you're going to need to take on some of that burden?
Yeah. So I think, hold on, I'm going to just do a quick calculation here. So I was running these numbers through with Danny when I was from Rockclicks, when I was talking about hiring somebody and trying to gather how much in total I need to have set aside to pay this person, right? So if I were to say, I want this associate to cover, even if I'm okay right now at a break even, I can't afford to hire somebody at a loss right now. But if I were to say, all right, coming at a break even point, because I know at this point I'm only getting busier, her to cover her salary plus her benefits plus my marketing expenses and my office expenses, she would need to do about $25,000 a month, which I probably already have that enough work for her to do that. And if I open this second office and start running some ads, and I think that number included me running some ads also, start running some ads, then, if she can cover herself and all my business expenses, then, again, I'm only going to get busier. The second office is going to move and start running some ads. I don't imagine a scenario where I get slower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Big leap, though, for an entrepreneur. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I've been just to help you kind of think it through. I've been following you obviously now for 15, 16 months. We've been talking, and I've seen how you analyze your firm, how you think about it, how you take risk. And I personally think this is a gutsy call, but I think it's the right move to make. I think you should do it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think again, a lot will come out of this conversation today. There's other things. I think one time she mentioned offhand, when I first met her, she was like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I want to go somewhere else or start my own firm." And that immediately I was like, "Whoa!" Like, what if she comes here for like 6 months to a year and then decides, "No, I want to open my own firm." But I think that that's a risk you take with everybody in family law, right? I mean, I don't think big law attorneys worry about that, right? That's kind of where my background. I don't think when they hire an associate, they're going to think, no 50-year associate is going to break off and start their own patent litigation firm and steal this giant corporation from them. That's just not how that world works. But, in family law, people do that frequently. And then I think my other worry was that she does live very far east, and so again, I'm going to open this second office, and all of my ads, I think I would focus out there if I hired her, just to A, because that's a newer office, and B, that's where she wants to work. But I do still have a good number of cases here in Nassau County. And I know she said for her to get to the courthouse here in Nassau County is like an hour, 20 minutes, or something like that. So I know that's like a headache for her. And what I've said is, in a year or so, hopefully within the next year, I'll be making a second hire. And that hire, thinking long term, I will have like a Suffolk office and a Nassau office. So once I have enough work to make that second hire, she could handle the Suffolk cases, and my second attorney could handle the Nassau cases. But there is going to be that, and my second attorney could handle the Nassau cases. But there is going to be that, part of that is my main office right now is still in Nassau County. So that'll be her call if she wants to do that. But
well, it'll be fun next month to hear what happens.
Yeah, it is. It is stressful, but I agree. I think, like you said, it's a risky move, but it feels like the right one. And again, I'm thankful that I get to temper that risk where I can, if I have a good meeting with her at 12, I can call up my other firm at 1 and say, "Hey, I want to double my workload," and they'll say, "Yes, please."
Yeah,
that's a great. That is a very nice thing to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, and then that I can work. I'm very efficient doing that type of work because I've been doing it 9 years. I can work a 30-hour work week at that job and carry basically a full workload, and then still spend a good amount of time if I'm not handling really any files directly. That's giving me 20 hours a week to work on the business, just growing things and getting maybe more involved in networking and stuff like that. So I think that puts me in a position that I would really enjoy being in. So
very good.
Tom, really appreciate your time and update today.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.